The chalk screeched against the blackboard as Professor Anton Davis wrote the final symbol of an equation that had confounded quantum physicists for decades. The conference room of the European Institute for Quantum Science fell silent as 50 of the world's most brilliant minds stared at the impossible problem before them. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why the Copenhagen paradox remains theoretical, Professor Davis announced, his voice carrying an unmistakable note of authority. After 17 years of research, my team believes we've narrowed the solution to two possibilities, neither of which fully resolves the quantum state inconsistency. From the back of the auditorium, Anna Nova watched intently, her gray eyes never leaving the blackboard. Unlike the academics in tailored suits and designer clothes, she wore a simple navy uniform with a plastic badge that read Custodial Services. Her weathered hands clutched a worn leather notebook almost protectively, thumbs tracing the fraying edges. "Excuse me." Professor Davis's voice cut through the room like ice. "The maintenance staff knows these symposiums are closed to the public. We'll need to finish our cleanup later." Anna froze, her cheeks burning as 50 prestigious scientists turned to stare at her. "I'm sorry, Professor," she said softly, her Polish accent noticeable but not thick. "I was just collecting the recycling bins." "Just leaving," Davis finished for her, gesturing toward the door. "Security protocols for classified research. I'm sure you understand." As Anna gathered her cleaning cart from the corner, Dr. Elise Johansson approached the podium. With bright red hair and intelligent eyes, she was one of the few female professors at the Institute. "Anton, really, we can spare 5 minutes for the cleaning staff to gather their supplies." "Dr. Johansson, our schedule is precise," Davis replied coolly. "And this material is restricted." Anna was nearly at the door when something on the board caught her eye, an error so glaring she couldn't believe no one had noticed it. She hesitated, years of practiced invisibility warring with mathematical truth. "Actually," she said quietly, her voice barely carrying across the room, "your variable transformation in the third line creates a discontinuity." The room fell silent. Professor Davis's eyebrows shot up, his mouth opening slightly before snapping shut. "I beg your pardon." She'd spoken without thinking, and now 50 of the world's top quantum physicists were staring at her, as if she'd sprouted a second head. Anna's heart hammered in her chest. But something pushed her forward, perhaps the decades of silence, perhaps simply the mathematical error that seemed to glow on the board before her. "The way you've applied the Dirac notation," she continued, her voice growing steadier. "It assumes constant energy in the closed system, but if the Copenhagen paradox holds true, then energy fluctuates at the quantum level when observed." Professor Davis's face reddened. "Security, please escort this woman out immediately." As two security guards moved toward her, Anna stared one last time at the equation, memorizing every symbol. She knew she shouldn't have spoken. 17 years of carefully constructed anonymity, threatened by a moment of mathematical impulse. What no one in that room could possibly know was that the simple cleaning woman being escorted from the building had once been considered the most promising mind in theoretical physics, before war, loss, and necessity had erased her from academic history. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at the symposium. Anna moved methodically through the Institute's hallways at 5:30 a.m., her cleaning cart rattling softly against the pristine floors. The early shift had become her refuge. Most of the scientists wouldn't arrive for hours, which gave her time to think, to calculate, to exist without the weight of others' assumptions. Her cart stopped outside Professor Davis's office. The security badge clipped to her uniform granted limited access to most areas, though she was careful never to disturb papers or materials. Today, however, something caught her eye through the glass door, a whiteboard filled with equations, the same problem from the symposium, but markedly changed. They were attempting a different approach now, one that avoided the discontinuity she had pointed out. The observation made her smile despite herself. As she cleaned the adjacent conference room, the door opened suddenly. Dr. Elise Johansson stood there, her red hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd been working through the night. "Oh," Elise exclaimed. "I didn't expect anyone to be here so early." Anna lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry for the disturbance, Doctor. I'll come back later." "No, please," Elise said quickly. I just needed to grab some notes. She paused, studying Anna's face. You're the woman from the symposium, aren't you? The one who noticed the discontinuity in Anton's equation. Anna tensed. It was inappropriate for me to speak. I apologize. Inappropriate. Elise laughed. You were right. We've spent 3 weeks reworking the approach because of that observation. She extended her hand. I'm Elise Johansson. Quantum entanglement is my specialty. Anna Nova, she replied, reluctantly shaking the offered hand. Polish. Elise asked. Your accent reminds me of my colleagues at Warsaw University. Anna nodded cautiously. From Krakow, originally. Were you in academics before? Your observation was remarkably precise. No, Anna said, the practice life flowing easily after so many years. Just an interest. I read when I can. I should continue my rounds now. After Elise left, Anna stood motionless for several minutes. Opening her worn notebook, she flipped to where she'd recreated Davis's equation from memory. Beneath, there were pages of calculations and alternative approaches, work she had done in the quiet hours of early morning before her shift or late at night in her tiny apartment when sleep eluded her. The solution was forming in her mind, crystallizing with each iteration. But what good was solving it? The world had long forgotten Dr. Anna Nova, the once promising physicist whose career had been cut short by circumstances beyond her control. Now she was just the cleaning woman with the strange habit of writing in notebooks. As she turned to leave, she noticed a flyer on the bulletin board. Annual Bennett Prize for Quantum Innovation. Anonymous submissions welcome. The prestigious award accepted papers without names or institutional affiliations to judge work purely on merit. For the first time in 17 years, Anna felt a flicker of her old ambition. What if she submitted her solution? Even if she couldn't reclaim her old life, perhaps her ideas could still contribute to science. The sound of a door closing down the hall jolted her back to reality. Dreams were dangerous things for women like her, women who had lost everything once before. I need all of you to focus. Professor Davis slammed his hand on the conference table. The Bennett Prize deadline is in 2 months, and the Copenhagen solution remains elusive. The research team looked exhausted. For 6 weeks, they had been working around the clock, testing approach after approach, each one promising at first before revealing fundamental flaws. Anna kept her head down as she collected coffee cups from the back of the room. She had become nearly invisible to the scientists, a ghost who appeared and disappeared with the trash and dirty dishes. Only Dr. Johansson occasionally acknowledged her with a smile or nod. What about the custodian's observation? Thomas asked, a young researcher with wire-rimmed glasses and enthusiastic eyes. The question earned him a sharp look from Davis. We've incorporated that correction, Davis replied stiffly. But the solution requires more than identifying errors. It requires genuine innovation. Anna carefully placed a cup on her tray, trying to ignore the familiar feeling in her chest, the pressing need to speak, to contribute, to solve. The equation on the display screen had evolved from their initial attempt, but she could see they were still approaching it from a fundamentally flawed perspective. If we apply standard quantum field theory, Davis continued, we remain stuck in this loop of probability. Elise shook her head. What if it's not about the field theory itself? What if we're missing something about the observer effect? As the scientists debated, Anna inched closer to the display, drawn by the mathematical puzzle like a moth to flame. Her mind raced ahead, seeing connections they were missing, pathways unexplored. The observer effect is well documented, Davis sighed. We've accounted for it in equations 6 through 9. Not fully, Anna whispered, then immediately regretted it as heads turned her way. Davis's jaw tightened. Ms. Nova, isn't it? Still interested in our equations? Elise shot her an encouraging glance. What were you saying, Anna? The room fell silent. 17 years of silence weighed against the pure, mathematical truth hovering before her. She could walk away, finish her shift, return to her solitary calculations. Or she could speak and risk everything. The observer effect you formulated assumes a singular perspective, Anna said slowly. But quantum mechanics allows for multiple simultaneous observations affecting the same particle's state. Thomas leaned forward, excited. Like a quantum version of relativity. Multiple reference frames. Precisely, Anna nodded. if you reframe equations 6 through 9 to account for observational multiplicity. This is absurd, Davis interrupted. We're taking theoretical advice from maintenance staff now. Actually, Elise interjected, it's a fascinating approach. Anton, we should at least explore it. Dr. Johansson. Davis cut her off. May I remind you that this is a classified research project with significant funding at stake? Not a public forum for amateur enthusiasts. The room grew uncomfortable. Anna's cheeks burned, but she stood her ground. The mathematics either works or it doesn't. My position is irrelevant to the validity of the approach. Davis stared at her, calculation in his eyes. After an excruciating moment, he smiled thinly. Very well. Since you seem so certain, perhaps you'd like to demonstrate your theory. He gestured to the whiteboard, offering her a marker. The challenge was clear, as was the trap. Either refuse and confirm his dismissal of her abilities, or accept and risk public humiliation when she failed. The team watched with a mixture of curiosity and secondhand embarrassment as Anna placed her cleaning supplies aside and walked toward the board. She had not stood before an audience of scientists since her doctoral defense 17 years ago, in another country, another life. As her fingers closed around the marker, she felt a strange sense of homecoming. Whatever happened next, in this moment, she was a physicist again. The marker squeaked against the whiteboard as Anna wrote, her hand moving with surprising confidence. The scientists watched in stunned silence as complex mathematical notations flowed from her fingers, not the hesitant scribbling of an amateur, but the practiced precision of an expert. First, she explained, her voice growing stronger, we need to reframe the observer perspective from singular to plural, mathematically accounting for the possibility of simultaneous observation from different reference frames. Thomas was frantically taking notes, while two senior researchers whispered to each other, pointing at specific elements of her approach. Elise watched with a growing smile, occasionally nodding as if confirming something she had suspected. Only Davis remained stone-faced, his arms crossed tightly across his chest. This approach contradicts established quantum field theory, he stated flatly. Not contradicts, Anna replied without turning. Extends. She continued writing, the equations flowing into one another with elegant simplicity. The conventional approach assumes a binary collapse of wave function upon observation. But what if the collapse itself exists in a superposition of states? A gasp came from the back of the room. That would mean multiple simultaneous realities, Anna confirmed, adding a final notation. Each equally valid, each affecting the others through quantum entanglement. When she finally stepped back from the board, the room remained silent. The transformation was remarkable, not just in the mathematics before them, but in Anna herself. She stood taller, her eyes bright with intellectual passion, the timidity of the cleaning woman replaced by the confidence of someone in complete command of her subject. Thomas broke the silence. This is revolutionary, if it holds up under testing. A significant if, Davis interrupted. These are interesting thought experiments, Ms. Nova, but without formal modeling. I've done the modeling, Anna said quietly. I can provide the full mathematical proof. The room fell silent again. Elise leaned forward. You've worked this out completely? Where? When? In my notebook, Anna replied simply. During breaks. After work. It's what I do. Davis's expression darkened. You expect us to believe that you, a member of the custodial staff, have independently solved a quantum physics problem that has stumped the field's leading minds for decades. Mathematics doesn't care about job titles, Professor, Anna replied evenly. His eyes narrowed. What exactly is your background, Ms. Nova? Because this, he gestured to the board, is not the work of someone who learned physics as a hobby. The question hung in the air, dangerous and unavoidable. Anna felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the past pressing forward, demanding acknowledgement. My background is irrelevant, she finally said. The mathematics speaks for itself. I disagree, Davis replied coldly. Security clearances in this facility require complete transparency about personal history. If you've misrepresented yourself to gain access to classified research. Anton, Elise interrupted. That's enough. The approach deserves evaluation on its merits. And it will receive it, Davis assured her. along with a thorough investigation into Ms. Nova's background and how she gained her apparently extensive knowledge of classified quantum research. He turned to Anna, his expression hard. I'll expect a complete explanation of your credentials by tomorrow morning. Until then, consider your access to this facility limited to public areas only. Rain pelted the windows of Anna's small apartment as she carefully packed her few belongings. The notebooks, 17 years of calculations, theories, and proofs, went into a waterproof bag. Clothes, identification documents, and the small wooden box containing her only photograph followed. She had been through this before: the rapid evacuation, the calculations of what was essential, what must be left behind. The muscle memory of displacement returned with disturbing ease. A sharp knock at the door made her freeze. It was nearly midnight. No one ever visited her. For a moment, she considered not answering, continuing her preparations in silence. But curiosity, or perhaps fatalism, drove her to the peephole. Dr. Elise Johansson stood in the hallway, rain dripping from her red hair. Anna hesitated, then slowly opened the door. Dr. Johansson, how did you find my address? Institute personnel records, Elise admitted. May I come in? It's important. Anna glanced at her half-packed belongings before reluctantly stepping aside. There was little point in hiding her intentions now. Elise entered, taking in the sparse furnishings and the open suitcase on the bed. You're leaving. It seems appropriate, Anna replied, closing the door. By tomorrow, Professor Davis will have discovered everything. Yes, Elise agreed, he will. But not because of an investigation. She reached into her bag and pulled out a battered academic journal. Because I already told him. Anna's blood ran cold. I spoke with Professor Kowalski at Jagiellonian University. Elise explained gently. He confirmed what I suspected the moment I saw your work on the board. You're Dr. Anna Nova, author of Quantum Observation and Reality Bifurcation. This paper, she held up the journal, was considered groundbreaking before you disappeared in 2007. Anna sank into a chair, her escape plans crumbling around her. So now everyone knows. Only Davis and I, Elise said, sitting across from her. And he owes me an enormous apology for his behavior today. But Anna, why? Why hide this brilliance for 17 years? Why work as a cleaner when you could have had any research position in Europe? Anna's laugh was hollow. Any position? As a political refugee with no documentation? With powerful enemies in my former country who accuse me of stealing state research? Academia is not as welcoming as you imagine to scientists who arrive with nothing but their minds. But after all this time, I build a life, Anna said simply. Not the one I trained for, not the one I dreamed of, but a life with safety and stability. Do you know how precious that is when you've lost everything once before? Elise was quiet for a moment, and yet you couldn't stop solving the problems. Couldn't stop doing the math. Anna glanced at her notebooks. Some passions cannot be abandoned, only redirected. I never expected anyone to see my work. The Copenhagen paradox was just particularly interesting. Interesting enough that your approach might actually solve it, Elise said with a smile. Davis's team has been working through your equations all evening. They're holding up, Anna. Your theory about observational multiplicity, it's testing positively against every model. A flicker of the old academic excitement rose in Anna's chest before she suppressed it. That's gratifying to hear, but it doesn't change my situation. Actually, it does. Elise leaned forward. The institute director has authorized me to offer you a position, not as custodial staff, but as a research scientist, with appropriate compensation and resources. Anna stared at her, disbelieving. Because of one equation. Because you're Dr. Anna Nova, Elise replied firmly. A brilliant physicist whose career was interrupted by circumstances beyond her control. The scientific community lost 17 years of your insights. We're not willing to lose any more. The Institute's central library buzzed with whispers as Anna walked through the main doors. Gone was the Navy custodial uniform, replaced by a simple charcoal pantsuit that Elise had helped her select. Her hair, usually hidden under a work cap, was arranged in a neat bun, emphasizing her sharp cheekbones and clear gray eyes. Is that her? The cleaning woman who solved the Copenhagen equation. I heard she was some kind of prodigy in Poland before disappearing. The rumors had spread through the institute like wildfire. 3 weeks into her new position as research associate, Anna was still adjusting to being seen, not just physically present, but truly noticed, acknowledged, even sought out. She made her way to a reserved study room where Thomas, the young researcher from Davis's team, was waiting with a stack of computational results. "Dr. Nova," he exclaimed, jumping to his feet. "The new simulations are incredible. Your approach held up across all test parameters." Still unused her title after so many years, Anna smiled slightly as she reviewed the data. "The quantum fluctuations are precisely within predicted ranges." "This is excellent work, Thomas." "It's your theory," he replied enthusiastically. "I'm just running the numbers." As they discussed the results, Anna noticed Professor Davis watching them through the glass wall of the study room. Unlike their previous encounters, his expression wasn't dismissive or suspicious. It was studious, evaluating. After Thomas left, Davis entered the room, carrying a folder. For a moment, neither spoke. "Your paper on observational multiplicity," he finally said, placing the folder on the table. "I've reviewed it thoroughly. It's remarkable work." "Thank you," Anna replied cautiously. "I've added some notes on potential applications to our current research," he continued, opening the folder to reveal pages of meticulous annotations. "If you're amenable to collaboration." Anna studied him, seeing not the arrogant professor who had dismissed her, but a scientist offering professional respect. "I would need to review your notes first." "Of course," he nodded. "Scientific rigor above all." He hesitated, clearly struggling with his next words. "I also owe you an apology, Dr. Nova. My behavior at our first encounters was inexcusable." "You treated me as my uniform suggested I should be treated," Anna replied evenly. "Most people do." Davis winced. "That's perhaps the most damning indictment of all. I pride myself on evaluating ideas based on merit, yet I was blind to brilliance because of laundry services, custodial services." Anna corrected with the ghost of a smile. "Precision matters in all fields, Professor." A surprised laugh escaped him. "Indeed it does." He gestured to the folder. "Review my notes when you have time. Your theory deserves development with full resources." The grand auditorium of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences gleamed with polished wood and brass fixtures as scientists from around the world gathered for the announcement of the Bennett Prize. Television cameras lined the back wall, broadcasting the ceremony live to universities and research institutions globally. In the front row, Anna sat between Elise and Professor Davis, still uncomfortable with the attention her work had attracted over the past 9 months. The Copenhagen solution, published under her name with Davis and Elise as co-authors, had created a sensation in the physics community. What had begun as theoretical mathematics had rapidly advanced to practical applications in quantum computing. "This year's prize is awarded for groundbreaking work on the Copenhagen paradox," the president announced. "A problem that has challenged quantum physicists for decades has finally been resolved through an innovative approach to observational multiplicity." Anna felt Elise squeeze her hand encouragingly. Davis sat straighter beside her. "It is with great pleasure that I announce this year's Bennett Prize is awarded to Dr. Emil Gruber of Vienna University for his work on quantum encryption protocols." A man 3 rows behind them stood to thunderous applause as Anna sat frozen, processing what had just happened. Elise's hand tightened painfully around hers. "That's not possible," Davis whispered, his face flushing with anger. "Gruber's work builds directly on your foundations, but doesn't address the paradox itself." Anna watched as Dr. Gruber, a distinguished older gentleman, made his way to the podium. Her initial shock was quickly replaced by a cool analytical assessment. She had never sought the prize itself. Her return to physics had been driven by the equations, not the accolades. "It's fine," she said quietly to Elise and Davis. "The work is what matters." "It's not fine," Davis replied, his voice tight with unusual emotion. "I was on the nomination committee. Your paper was the clear frontrunner until—" He stopped abruptly. "Until what?" Anna asked, suddenly alert to the undercurrent in his words. Before Davis could respond, Dr. Gruber began his acceptance speech. "I stand on the shoulders of giants," he began, his German accent thick but precise. "My work would not have been possible without the foundational theories of many colleagues. including the remarkable recent paper by Dr. Nova and her team at the European Institute. Anna felt eyes turning toward her as Gruber continued. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Anna Nova in particular, whose return to physics after a 17-year absence has reinvigorated our field with fresh perspectives. After the ceremony, they were approached by Dr. Sophia Werner, editor of the International Journal of Quantum Physics. The prize was yours until last week, she said privately to Anna. Then certain diplomatic pressures were applied. Your former country's science ministry made their displeasure known through official channels. Anna felt a chill. After all these years, they still... It isn't about you personally anymore, Werner interrupted gently. It's about saving face. Acknowledging your work means admitting they drove away one of their most brilliant minds. Werner handed Anna an envelope, an invitation to lead a new research initiative on quantum reality modeling, with a 10-year funding commitment and complete academic freedom. You would build your own team, pursue your own research directions. This is far more significant than any prize, Anna realized, studying the letter. Precisely, Werner smiled. Prizes are for yesterday's achievements. This is about tomorrow's discoveries. 6 months later, Anna sat in her office at the International Quantum Foundation headquarters. As director of quantum reality modeling, she led a team of 12 researchers, including Elena Varga, a former cleaning woman studying physics at night whom Anna had hired as her research assistant. The walls were covered with whiteboards filled with equations, and her 17 journals were displayed prominently on a dedicated shelf, a testament to the work she had done in silence. Elise entered with news. Your former country has officially dropped all historical charges against you. They're recognizing your Polish scientific achievements retroactively and have extended an invitation for you to lecture at Jagiellonian University. Why now? Anna asked, absorbing this information. The practical applications of your Copenhagen solution have significant economic implications. They've decided acknowledging you is more valuable than continuing old vendettas. Professor Davis arrived with Thomas, excitement evident in their expressions. We've confirmed your predictions about quantum temporal alignment experimentally. The implications for causality theory are revolutionary. Anna studied their simulation results, then moved to the whiteboard. There's more, she said quietly, beginning to write. If the temporal alignment holds under these conditions, then the following must also be true. For 20 minutes, she worked at the board, the equations flowing from her hand as her colleagues watched in fascinated silence. This was Anna in her element, not the cautious research associate or even the respected director, but the pure mathematician following the logic of universes most couldn't begin to visualize. Later that evening, Anna sat alone in her office. On her desk lay the invitation to lecture at Jagiellonian University, to return to the country that had once driven her away. Next to it lay Elena's most recent work, showing remarkable insight for a student still completing her formal education. Anna began writing her acceptance. She would return, not as a vindicated exile, but as Dr. Anna Nova, director of quantum reality modeling. She would lecture not about past injustices, but about future discoveries. And perhaps most importantly, she would meet with students like Elena, brilliant minds constrained by circumstance rather than capability. The equations on her whiteboard gleamed in the evening light, mathematical poetry describing the fundamental nature of existence. In the end, it wasn't the titles or recognition that mattered most to Anna. It was the pure, unfiltered joy of understanding. The same joy that had sustained her through years of cleaning floors and emptying trash cans while the universe's secrets unfolded in her mind. Dr. Anna Nova, once invisible, now stood fully in the light, not just a professional recognition, but of her own uncompromised brilliance. If this story of overlooked genius and scientific vindication resonated with you, like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the triumph of human potential over prejudice.